The promise that was never yours. We are born into promises we never agreed to. The world arrives with a script in its hand, already memorized. If you are good, you will be safe. If you obey, you will be loved. If you perform, you will be worthy. If you shrink, you will belong. These are not spoken as guesses, they are delivered as guarantees. Families, institutions, culture, systems, each one places a small, glowing vow in your hands as if it were an element that cannot break. We build our lives around these assurances, the way a city is built around a central clock. We set our days, our choices, our sense of self by the steady ticking of what we were told would always hold. This is the first surrender, not of freedom, but of authorship. We accept their promises as the architecture of reality itself. We are told, this is just how it is, and so we begin to shape ourselves into the person the promise requires, not because the promise is true, but because we cannot imagine who we would be without it. The half-life of a promise does not begin when it is broken. It begins the first time you measure it. The first time something in you quietly asks, is that actually real? You speak a truth and the room goes colder. You step outside the role and the system corrects you. You say no when the script expects yes and watch the distance grow. You were told, if you follow the rules, you'll be safe. But your body remembers the time you followed the rules and still weren't. You were told, if you are useful, you will not be left. But your nervous system remembers how quickly you were replaced when you stopped overgiving. You look up at the central clock, the promise that time plus obedience equals security, and you see the smallest crack in the glass. The ticking continues, but something in you no longer trusts the mechanism. This is the first measurement, the first quiet experiment run in the laboratory of your own life. If I tell the truth, will love still be here? If I rest, does the world still hold? If I stop performing, do I still exist? Each answer returns, not as data, but as ache. The promise has not yet shattered, but the numbers no longer add up. Promises like these do not collapse cleanly, they decay. You begin to notice how much of your life is spent maintaining what was supposed to maintain you. The job that promised stability demands your health. The belief that promised salvation demands your silence. The role that promised belonging demands you disappear. You hold the old vow in one hand. This is what keeps you safe, and the evidence in the other. This is what keeps you small. The mind understands before the body does. It knows quietly. The math is off. The structure is failing. The promise is less. But the hope you poured into it does not vanish on command. This is the half-life of a promise. The structure is no longer whole, but the part of you that trusted it is still orbiting around its ghost. You tell yourself, maybe it will work if I try harder. Maybe it will be true if I am better. Maybe the pain is proof that I haven't earned the reward yet. In this phase, you are not just grieving the promise. You are grieving the version of you who was willing to disappear to keep it alive. The world will call this loyalty. Your body will call it corrosion. There is always a final moment, often quiet, rarely cinematic, where something in you knows, this promise cannot carry me any farther. Letter to the one who let go. To the part of you still standing in the ruins of what was supposed to save you, you did not fail the promise failed reality. You were never wrong for wanting safety, for wanting love, for wanting a future that did not hurt. You were only taught to seek it in places that required the death of your own voice. The residue you carry, the guilt, the second guessing, the heavy question of, did I do enough, is not evidence that you abandoned something holy. It is evidence that you stayed too long with what had already abandoned you. The hope you invested in their vow was never wasted. It was simply stored in the wrong container. You can take it back now. You are allowed to withdraw your faith from systems that do not honor your existence. You are allowed to retrieve your devotion from roles that feed on your disappearance. You are allowed to reclaim your future from any structure that demands your self-betrayal as proof of belief. The half-life is complete. Let the particles settle. You are not the rubble. You are the one who walked out. Expect nothing. Begin again. When an unstable element finishes its decay, it becomes something else, something quiet, something steady, something that can finally rest. The same is true of you. When the promises you were born into finish breaking inside you, what remains is not emptiness. What remains is a stable core that knows the difference between a structure you must serve and a life that can finally serve you. You stop asking, what do I need to be to keep that world intact? And you begin asking, what kind of world can hold who I actually am? The center of gravity shifts. No longer their clock, their script, their measure. Now, your body, your truth, your quiet, your next honest breath. You become the constant. You become the reference point. You become the only promise you must hold. Not, I will never change, but I will not abandon myself to keep a breaking system whole. This is the stable element, a self that no longer trades its own frequency for the illusion of being kept. If you are standing in the long afterglow of a promise that did not hold, a belief, a system, a role, a life you were told would make sense if you just stayed, may this be your quiet confirmation that you are not wrong for stepping away from what was already decaying. Your worth is not measured by your ability to keep unstable things intact. You are not the half-life of their expectations. You are the whole life of your own becoming. This is expect nothing, and even here, in the dust of broken blueprints, in the light you gather back from every vow that wasn't true, you glow anyway. Glow anyway. Glow anyway. Glow anyway. My first poetry collection is out now. My book, The Poet Who Forgot Her Name, is available wherever books are found.